It's a great day for hockey here in Chaska, Minnesota, and we welcome you in to the 2024 SDP Invitational. This is 2010 level, as we have got NSHDA there in the black uniforms with white numerals. They will travel from left to right. In the white jerseys with blue numerals outlined in red, go Myro. This is brought into the zone by Charlie Spores. The goaltender for the Myro squad, Hunter Dryden. And that is quite a name to live up to, but right out of the gate, no, they're going to wave it off. So I'm not even, now we've got some confusion here. The NSHDA squad, it looked like immediately he signaled as a waving off, but now they're going to center ice. So I guess that goal is going to stand. I'm not sure where or what that signal was supposed to refer to, but that did not take long. We are 19 seconds into action, and NSHDA picking up the goal, and they've got themselves on the scoreboard. Didn't even have a time really to get into the two squads. Here's a shot short side by Reese Johnston, does not find the target. Trying to pull one out was David Turkowitz. So, Trip Wroblewski with the goal. Samuel Morishow picks up the primary assist. Charlie Spores the secondary apple. This will roll in on Dryden and kicks off the side of the net. That was close to hitting off his pad. Had it hit off his pad, it would have negated icing. So again, that took just 19 seconds into the contest. And it is quickly an early lead for NSHDA, or the North Shore Hockey Development Academy. You can see why they abbreviate it. I'll probably go back and forth between NSHDA and just North Shore. They are out of the Chicago, Illinois area, taking on an East Coast team as Myro hails from the Greenwich, Connecticut, and New York area. This is going to be covered up by the netminder, and we will have a whistle there. Luke Adland, well, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure if that's Adland or Toth, because they're both listed as number 1 on the sheet. We'll see if we can find out who that is. Snapping a shot and missing on the short side is Xander Royal. Behind the net, they center it out front and just can't connect. This will be tracked down by Myro as Subramanian is able to make the play up the right wing side with speed from the circle. And we got confirmation that is Bennett Toth in between the pipes for NSHDA. For Myro, as I mentioned, Hunter Dryden. And as I was trying to finish a thought, the first goal of the contest was scored, but what a name to live up to. Obviously, Ken Dryden, one of the greats all time to play the position. This is going to be Spores in with a little bit of separation, fires, and Dryden makes the stop. A low shot that it looked like the netminder was going to be tested 5-hole. That probably got up a little bit higher than Spores would have liked to try to split between the wickets. North Shore will flip one high. This is going to be gloved down by Ronan Wilson. Wilson playing D. Spores will catch and quickly dump down the length of the ice. We will play. There's a puck that nearly popped out front Wilson and a teammate weren't quite on the same page. Now Wilson with it. He'll be pressured by Roboleski. Brought into the offensive zone by Porter Matchett. Matchett is the son of one of the coaches for Myro and did not miss by much. Tried to find that far side. This will carry him all the way out to Carter Ellertson. Spun around is Wilson. In talking with the coaching staff for Myro ahead of time, they are very short-handed. A number of players who are out of this contest that were on the roster for a wide array of reasons, and I'm hoping that the ones who had to miss didn't have to make the trip here, and it wasn't a situation where, you know, this is the 5th game in 3 days that all of a sudden they went from a full lineup to, I think there were 4 or 5 out on our roster. Played over to the red line right in front of the scorer's box. They'll make a pass over for Ethan Wise. Wise will go glassing out, a wise decision as his name would indicate. Pass over to the left side. This is going to be gathered and brought into the zone. Stokes in with Turkowitz. He'll slam on the brakes in the slot. Great look and a nice play there by Stellan Gasso, as he was able to create enough pressure to not prevent the shot entirely, but certainly make it a much more difficult play. 12:17 left to go here in period number 1. We have 17-minute intermission, or 17-minute periods, and I'm told that we will have a short, probably 60-second break between periods 1 and 2. The elongated break with a Zamboni resurfacing will be between periods 2 and 3. So if you're watching here on Youth Hockey Hub and want to be able to time it out, I wouldn't take a long break in between periods 1 and 2 if you can avoid it. Myro will play it down low. Now looking to break out is Wise. Wise goes end to end, and just as I say that, knifed away at the last second by Wilson. Played up the boards and tracked down. A little soft pass there by Avery Hanowski. They'll pressure and floated up right by the door that is used by Myro to make changes. Johnston goes backwards to go forwards as he hits Subramanian. Checking over his shoulder is Carl Stewart. A heads-up play to make sure he didn't have pressure. Spores feeds that ahead, and now in with some speed is Roboleski. There's a shot, hit the netminder in the chest, and then he got the leg pad out in time. A big play to keep this a 1-goal game. Tracking it down his own end, wants to quickly move it forward, and then they'll keep the line moving. Roboleski feeds it deep. Up the right wing boards. It's turned over at the left circle. Trying to get a shot off was Royal. And this will be held onto by the netminder with exactly 10.5 minutes left to go here in our opening frame. When we take a look at the goal scored, again, just 19 seconds in to our opening stanza. That goal will be credited to Trip Roboleski. That is his 4th goal of the tournament. Mari Shao with the primary assist. He now has a stat line of 1 and 1 for 2. And Charlie Spores with his 2nd assist to go along with 4 goals. He's got a stat line of 4 and 2 for 6. What I will say, not being overtly familiar with the SDP Invitational, but I've done a number of broadcasts for Youth Hockey Hub over the years. The first thing when I was taking a look at the numbers and the results last night, you've got to be thrilled with a tournament that has as much parity as it is. There's a blocker save. We'll hold that thought for a moment as Toth punches that out with authority. He leaves that anywhere near his paint, and that's a dangerous rebound. Instead, he got that to the upper portion and even out of the face-off circle. Now breaking out the other way. Here comes North Shore. And then big hit, bodied along the boards was Myrho, and then he actually pops right back up. I thought he'd be down for a couple of seconds, but he almost used those boards to spring himself back up, and that is one of the areas of hockey that they say, you know, when kids finally get to hit each other, they want to learn how to hit each other, and they want to do it a lot, but the most important thing is learning how to take a hit, and that's exactly what he did, as he didn't even seem slowed down after that collision. Subramanian finds the lane, and Porter match it over to the left side. Dumping that in deep will be Bauer Sullivan. The Select Development Program Invitational, the name of the tournament, and one of the 4 teams at the 2010 age level. This is played around the board, stepping up. Subramanian from no angle feeds it out front. And that's going to be in now. The net did come off its moorings, but I think they are going to say that that was just as the goal was scored, so this one should count. That will even things up at 1 goal apiece. 8:08 time of the goal, and a lot of mayhem out front, so we'll see how they officially score this one here in a moment. But we've got a 1-1 score, just as I was starting to praise the just as I was praising the parity, and I paused there to make sure I didn't mishear, as the goal put home by Sullivan, that we knew, but just 1 assist. Subramanian, that's one of those where Subramanian took it from the corner, threw it out front. I thought there was almost no chance that he wasn't going to get an assist. I thought perhaps maybe somebody else on Myro had touched it before Sullivan put it home. And then sometimes officials will be a little bit stingy with those assists and say, no, that was touched by a player from NSHDA before it was put home, and wipe out all the assists. And it may have been, but you need to gain possession in order to negate those assists, and that certainly was not the case. So that is going to be Sullivan picking up the tally. That is his team leading 5th of the weekend, as these 2 teams each played 2 games Friday, 2 games yesterday. And at the conclusion of this one, there will be a trophy presentation. This is knifed out of the zone. Nice job there on the defensive zone play by Jet Zamont. Looking for a centering pass. And stepping up, a little bit of friendly collision there as a couple of Myro players inadvertently took each other out of the play. There's a blocker save up high. We've reached the halfway point and beyond. In fact, we were just 22 seconds away from the halfway point of the period when that latest goal was scored. 1-1 the score. This is going to be Stokes bringing it into the zone. Stokes kept at bay. A nice job. They find a man at the back door, and what a save. Right pad stop as Ellertson dropped to one knee to get some good wood on that shot. You can see through the middle here of the ice at center ice the Hawks logo. If you're unfamiliar with the Minnesota metro area, the Chaska Hawks, the high school team. And they play as the Hawks on the boys' side. On the girls, they co-op with Chanhassen. This is going to be gathered by Stewart up the left wing side. Obviously, early on, North Shore with the early goal, and you had to give them the edge in play through the first 3 or 4 minutes. I'd say that Myro has bounced back, and the ice has been tilted to our left more often than not as of late. Looking to break out are the Myro squad. Again, in the white jerseys with red and blue. They will miss on that long home run pass attempt, and we will have an icing bringing it back down into Myro's end. So if you take a look at the standings going into this, you can't get much tighter. In the 2010 division, Myro finished as 1 through 4 games and a possible 8 points. They had 5. SDP and Ice Exchange each had 4, and NSHDA had 3. Barring all 4 teams having 4 points, that's about as close as it gets. Myro started things off with a 3-3 draw against this NSHDA squad. Fell to SDP 5-1, defeated Ice Exchange 6-2, and then it took overtime to get past SDP the second time, that time a 3-2 overtime victory to avenge their loss on Friday. We'll take a face-off that will come to the right of Toth, behind the cage, or behind the goal line rather. Now it's fed up high. With it, Supermanian, and he didn't hold on to it long. Shot from Hanowski. Misses the target. And they try to stuff in from the side of the cage, and no such luck. North Shore obviously also started their tournament with a 3-3 draw against Myro. They fell to Ice Exchange 8-7. Yesterday were knocked off by SDP 9-3, and then beat Ice Exchange 5-2. So again, no team in this 4 games so far, no team has won all 4 games. No team has lost all 4 games. In fact, everybody has had 2 good decisions and 2 less than perfect when you factor in the ties. Floated in and held onto, and that's exactly what you want to see. Nobody wants to travel across the country in either way. Say, we went to a tournament, we didn't win a game, most of them were lopsided. Looking through the scores of all 4 teams, weren't a lot of blowouts. As there's a shot, does not get through. The twig of Spores blocks it. Now Spores will back up and gain some speed, however, he made a little bit of a move at the line, and that may have thrown off his winger's timing as they go into the zone offside. 4:29 left to go here in period number 1. Rebel Whiskey scoring for North Shore, 19 seconds in at 8:08. Sullivan answering for Myro. From the red line, track down, and now we got a potential 2-on-1, and just as I say that, Rebel Whiskey getting back and showing his value on both sides of the ice. Has the goal and broke up a potential odd man rush. Skating into this is Ellertson. Ellertson backhands that one, and that was a nifty play. You'd been afraid of that pass getting picked off, and it was not. Floated down low on the backhand. I apologize, as Myro has a defenseman there, number 4, and not listed on the roster, so we'll try to figure out who that player is as the game goes on. Stokes into the offensive zone from the left wing side. Cuts up, tries to go forehand, and didn't get much on that attempt. Floats one out to the point. The 2 defensemen had to talk about it, and it was tipped before it got there. Sullivan got a tip on the offering from Supermanian, and they put one in. They feed it out front, And Devin Stokes is going to get this one. Time of the goal, 13 minutes, 52 seconds. And Myro comes back with back-to-back goals. And they have flipped the script, and they lead by a 2-1 score. Again, don't go far, as in the intermission, we'll have a brief stoppage. I believe it'll just be 60 seconds. No more than 2 minutes at most. The longer break, if you're looking for a trip to the restroom, perhaps to the kitchen to make yourself a snack, will be between periods 2 and 3. We'll reset at center ice. So Gunnar Minker picks up the primary assist, David Turkowitz the secondary. And you've got to credit the Myro squad, as sometimes there's a bouncing puck and was just wide of the cage. Sometimes you can find yourself in a situation you give up a goal immediately and you end up getting flustered. Myro has done anything but. Shot from Ellertson, fought off by all the right side equipment of the netminder. Toth threw his leg pad out in front of it, as well as the blocker and stick. Backhanded up the line. And a collision there by Reese Johnston. A heavy collision, and it may have looked worse than it was, and I think that was because, unfortunately, Johnston didn't see his opponent coming because he was looking down at the puck. That's a tough one. I know that a lot of times we say, hey, you got to play hockey with your head up, but at some point you're trying to locate the puck too, and you'll hear players talking about, good passes that don't lead your teammates into trouble. Not that necessarily that was the fault of the passer, because it looked like it wasn't through cleanly, kind of broken up partially or tipped by NSHDA. But as youngsters are going through hockey, you always want to try to find passes that allow your teammates to receive them cleanly, but also are not going to put them in dangerous spots, and not really through any fault of anyone's, but as the situation developed, that was exactly what happened there. Johnston had his head down trying to find a puck. Trying to cut through the middle was Jude Jett. Defended well by North Shore. Tipped to Minker. Minker floats it up, not out. Kicked in by the right skate and tracked down. Robowiski rips a shot, and may have been deflected in by Zamont. Into the offensive zone. We have the final minute of the first. 2-1, Myro on top. Tracked down by Subramanian. Played over. Firing a shot that's off the crossbar. Reese Johnston, thrown to the ice moments ago, nearly had his revenge. Instead, he hits iron. And the loud ping is all he gets for his efforts. Nice job there. Subramanian took his time, did not rush that, and found a D-to-D pass over to the right side. Sullivan, and a blocker save. Again, Toth doing a good job of controlling where that loose puck is. Obviously, for the most part, goalies would rather have a high shot on their catcher side. They're able to freeze those rebounds. There's a shot, and the rebound comes back out. Match it, let it go. Glove save, swatted down by Toth, and as they try to pick up the loose puck, the horn sounds, ending the first period. We'll be back in a matter of moments. 2-1, Myro leading here in the 2010 division of the SDP Invitational. You're watching it right here on Youth Hockey Hub.
Brewpub Pizza is specifically designed with the hungry in mind. It's big, it's bold, and it's outrageously delicious. Brewpub Latza Matza Pizza is made with your favorite premium meats and veggies, topped with over a half pound of real Wisconsin mozzarella cheese. When you're looking for the ultimate pizza adventure, when you crave a really serious pizza that brings the great Brewpub experience, this is the one. Pick it up today at your favorite local grocer. Brewpub Latza Matza Pizza, the ingredients for a great time.
Generally speaking, water is a better fluid to use to rehydrate with. A big part of the importance of hydration is hydrating before the race rather than during the race. So, the hydration before a long distance race in particular really starts the day before the race, probably almost 24 to 36 hours before the race to be completely hydrated.
Welcome back in here as we get set to start period 2. The two sides will switch ends. So it is the 2010 Myro squad in the USA-esque jerseys, white jerseys with blue numerals outlined in red, the blue shoulders. They will go from left to right here in the frame. The North Shore Hockey Development Academy in a black jerseys, white numerals, a little bit of gray trim. They will go from right to left. And Myro with a 1-goal lead. This is brought in by Roble Whiskey. We appreciate you tuning in to the championship game of the SDP Invitational. Played up the right wing side, match it. We'll slow things down and then get it ahead for Sullivan. He has the first of 2 goals for Myro. Floated into the corner and tracked down there by Avery Hanowski. Big hit finished by Sullivan. Kept in for a moment, then backhanded out of harm's way by Xander Royal. They'll hack away at Sullivan, clean at the line, just barely, and then just barely a save made there as Toth got the equipment out just in the nick of time to deflect that one up and into the netting. Yes, it did pop back into play, but since that did hit the netting, we will go ahead and have a stoppage here. 16-14 left to go in period number 2. Played to the left point, played out of midair, but not high enough for high sticking to be called. What a play. They find a man at the back door, and Minker put that on Turkowitz's tape. It was very reminiscent of a goal that was scored the other night by Austin Matthews in his bid for 70. I don't know if it was 67th or 68th, but Matthews had his stick tied up, but he just kept it on the ice, and the pass basically went off of the stick and in. You didn't even really need to shoot, and that was kind of the same situation with Turkowitz. And again, we're covering youth hockey as this is floated in on the netminder Toth. We might as well talk about, some pointers or some things for young hockey players to learn, good habits. As this is in on the netminder. Big save as he had to fall backwards to make it. And then standing his ground, or laying his ground rather, Hunter Dryden. To finish that thought, you always tell, players of all age, but especially youth hockey players, hey, keep your stick on the ice, especially in the offensive, I should say in all zones, but especially near the net, and just point it towards the net. Sometimes somebody's going to be battling with you. You can't control it as much as you'd like, but if you just have it pointed, and Turkowitz did make a shot there. It was Matthews the other night that really didn't. He had his stick tied up with his adversary. I believe that it was against the Detroit Red Wings. But that was one where Turkowitz may not have needed to. Might have been able to just plant it there, and Minker's pass was so on the mark. Sullivan controlling. And Minker making a case for himself to be a player of the game. There's a shot and a goal. Sullivan says, I don't know about that. He picks up his second goal. Each have 2 points early in the second period of action, and we've got ourselves a 4-1 score. We'll call time of the goal 2 minutes and 10 seconds. It comes 70 seconds after the opening goal of the frame, and Myro has flipped the script. It was North Shore scoring in the first 60 seconds of period number 1. Myro scores in the first 60 seconds, 60 exactly, in period number 2, and then they add one just over a minute later. So Sullivan's will be considered unassisted, and we mentioned Hunter Dryden having a great hockey name. How about Bauer, as in the hockey company, B-A-U-E-R? He's got 2, and the first time he found pay dirt, he picked up an assist from Avi Subramanian, and this time he takes all the accolades himself and gives his squad a 3-goal lead. We talked about some of the other stats overall in the weekend. We're going to have a penalty here as Wise is getting ahead to the box, holding the call with 14:18 left to go in the frame. Devin Stokes scoring in the first period. That was his second goal and 6th point of the weekend. So we will call that 2 minutes, 42 seconds. And it is going to be a 2-minute minor. A lot of hockey going on here in the metro area. Obviously the SDP Invitational, and it took place on a weekend that saw the Xcel Energy Center filled with not just college hockey fans, but hockey fans in general. We have a second player going to the box, Stellan Gasso. What I'm wondering, and we'll find out confirmation, is if it was not a 2 and a 10, which would mean Gasso can get out at 2 minutes, or when the puck is put into the opponent's net on the power play, if that were to come about. They'll feed it to the left side, snapping a shot, and what a save. Toth, not just getting a block run, but diving out in front, and then you have to worry about the rebound. But he was able to pop that up and out of harm's way. Minute 34 left to go on the man advantage. Brought into the offensive zone by Matchett. Matchett missing on the short side with a backhand effort. And it's spelled the same way I was told. It's Matchett, like hatchet with an M. Ripping a shot high is Johnston. So my speculation was correct. A 2-minute penalty called for holding, and then a 10-minute misconduct, which means he is, assuming this power play goes the full 2 minutes, he would be free, as there's a shot, hits off the side of the post. Would be free at 2:18 left in the period and a whistle. But more important than that right now for North Shore is killing off this penalty. They've got 2/3 of it in the books with no damage done. And as we always say, your goaltender needs to be your best penalty killer. And Toth has been just that. The blocker save moments ago, and then flashes the leather, That was played out of the zone. It may have been with a high stick. North Shore didn't care because it got it out of their defensive third, and they knew the next ones to touch it would be Myro, and a high stick infraction is only whistled if the team that played the puck with a high stick is the next one to touch it. Obviously, a different scenario if you get called for a high stick penalty and strike an opponent. This is played up to Stokes. Stokes gains the red line, gains the blue line, tries to pull it to himself, and that was read beautifully by Hudson Haas. Haas not fooled in the slightest. We will go 5-on-5 as coming out of the box is Gasso, serving the penalty for Wise, who will remain in the sin bin for another 10 minutes. And again, has to wait for a whistle because it'll be 5-on-5. Those are the tough ones. When you take one of those, or if you take offsetting penalties, sometimes the sentence can end up being longer because you need a stoppage in order to find a time to come out of the box. Sullivan dangles, dishes, feeds the left circle. This is floated up, not out. Held in by Wilson. They'll float one towards the net, and then a good job there by North Shore to clear that from harm's way. Kept in by Sullivan. They'll keep the pressure dialed. 11:27 left to go here in period number 2. Obviously not the start that North Shore was looking for, but then after taking a penalty and being kind of hemmed in here, if they can get out of the zone and get one, it really changes the complexion of this championship game. Checking over his shoulder is Wilson. He'll go all the way around the bend to pick up maximum speed. The 2 and 3 floating as he skates through neutral ice and into the offensive zone. Leaves a rebound, and that's why you take those tough angle shots. You know, it's unlikely they're going to go in, but it could leave a juicy rebound, and that one went into the slot. Stokes unable to put that one home from there. But again, you got to love this if you're a fan of the Myro squad, as they have just been keeping the opposition here pinned in their own zone. Turning and firing, wasting no time, was Stokes. The North Shore squad defending the north end of the rink here in period number 2. Just over 10 minutes left to go in the second. They'll float one ahead, and trying to find it was Griffin Nutter. And we're going to have a tripping penalty. That's going to go against Myro. I'll be honest, I thought that call could have gone either way. I thought that there was certainly a chance that they could say the player on North Shore was tripped up. And I could also see them saying, well, it looked like he kind of ran into his opposition. So that's one of those where I think the official's right regardless of what they end up deciding there. Face-off will be taken by Jet Zamont. They'll feed that back to the point, and Stewart to the other side. It hits the net, but off the side of the twine. And this will be held onto by the netminder. Dryden tested early, hasn't been tested nearly as much as of late. So that penalty coming at 10:02. So we'll call it 6:58. Time of the frame. A right pad save by Dryden. They try to put home the rebound, as Spores was there on the side of the net. And once again, Dryden gets down in the butterfly and stands tall. 92 seconds left to go on the man advantage. At the dot, wasting no time off the restart, Spores turns and fires. When he started that shot, his back was to the net and put it at a pretty good location. Low blocker side, just over the leg pad. And once again, Dryden victimized 19 seconds into the game. He's been flawless since. So it took a trip to the sin bin, but we now have a name to go with the face. Dylan Baker is the guilty party. Tripping the call. And we've reached the halfway point and beyond in this power play opportunity. Now the shorthanded squad getting a look, and that is not what you want to see if you are North Shore. Is not only did the shorthanded team bring it into the zone, but they drew an offensive zone face-off for themselves. 50 seconds, still plenty of time, but ideally, with a man advantage, you'd like to be taking offensive zone restarts as often as possible. This will be tracked down. The jersey tucked into the breezers, but I believe that was Gasso. He's out there with Farnsworth as they try to set something up. Here's Gasso. Played over for Stewart, floated in on the netminder and held on with the glove. I realize I am somebody who didn't grow up in Minnesota, but since I've really gotten into hockey, have been here for the last 20, 25 years. I made a reference to breezers, hockey pants, as they are referred to elsewhere. I think by now most people, if they even call them hockey pants, know the term breezers, but if not, and that sounded weird, I apologize. There's a chest save made by the netminder, and more important and more impressive than the save itself was no rebound given up. That was fired into the chest and neck area of Bennett Toth. Would have been difficult for him to get out of the way if he tried, but the impressive part was with the collection of blocker and glove, he was able to pin that along his chest. 2 seconds left on the man advantage, and Myro skates 5-on-5 as Baker is out of the box, having served his sentence. Played up to Gasso on a backhand feed from Royal. Also, I apologize as I spoke with the coaching staff for North Shore, and they said, you know, we are not even 100% sure on all of the pronunciations. They said this was a team that was a lot of the players they met just within the last week. And if you ever know about how things typically work with hockey teams, the thought process is ask the team moms, ask the team managers. They'll often know better than the coaching staff the names of the players. Well, it looks like we're going to have a change in goal. Lev Smotkin will come in to spell Dryden. And for those curious, that is not at all an indication on the performance of Dryden. Dryden was stellar, but a lot of times coaches will go in and say, hey, we're just going to give each goaltender a period and a half or half of the game. Speaking of the coaching staff for the Myro squad, John O'Connor, Chris Myro, and Chris Matchett. On the North Shore side, Jad Ramsey. Myro tries to exit up the middle of their own zone. That could have turned bad. Fortunately, they were able to defend. Turkowitz gets it up the line, and Stokes will bring it deep. Behind the goal, he'll go. As a right-handed shot, needed to use the backhand. Baker floats it towards the net and kicked out with authority by Toth. Tracking that down at his own skates was Jeff Zamont. Now skating with it is Stokes. Gets his own blue line, red line, far blue line, slams on the brakes, gets pinned there momentarily by Spores, but is able to withstand that contact and still make a play, feeding it down low for Johnston. 6:38 left to go here in period number 2. 4-1. Myro on top here in the 2010 championship game. Played down low, looking for a feed. Now to the other side. Waiting with it is Wilson. Wilson drops to one knee and fires one off target, but not necessarily looking to score there. Looking for a deflection, or perhaps, as he did get, a heavy bounce off the boards, although the backboards weren't quite as springy as he was hoping in that situation. Here's Sullivan, and remember that every time Bauer Sullivan lets one go, he's looking for a hattie. 6 minutes exactly remaining here in the frame. And again, we will have a stoppage in play in between periods 1 and 2. We will have a change in net for North Shore. I believe this is Luke Adland coming in, listed as number 1, as this shot goes up and over everybody. This is turned over. Firing a shot, and it's in. Kisses off the bar, and that is exactly the thing that I mentioned moments ago. As Sullivan picks up the hat trick, it comes with 5 minutes and 43 seconds left to go here in period number 2, and it's a 5-1 lead. And my apologies, as I had that wrong. I thought as the goaltender for North Shore came in, he was wearing 30. He's actually wearing 90. So that should be Graham Wiggins. And Wiggins had no chance on that one. If your opponent can hit the goalpost or crossbar and it then is on target, not much you can do. Fed ahead to Jet. Jet is slowed down. Great contact there. They broke up the play and didn't take a penalty in the process. And Sullivan, back-to-back unassisted goals. He struck at the 2:10 mark of the period, now 11:17 of the frame. He came in with a team-high 4 goals. He's going to extend that lead as he's got 7 plus an assist for 8 points in now his 5th game of action. Played ahead by Sullivan, who may not be done. Tracks it down in the corner. Thought about trying to float one out front. So yesterday, the two teams competing in the other 2 squads, Ice Exchange and SDP, wrapped up pool play and then played in their semifinal. For Myro, it took extra time, centering a pass out front, and that got away from Ellertson. And it looks like, according to this, it looks like that one went into a shootout. Myro getting the first goal of the game from Turkowitz. Then SDP scored 2 more in the first period. Stokes scoring in the second frame. And that was all the scoring we would have in regulation and in overtime to come away with the Myro portion of the championship. Going to have a penalty here with exactly 4 minutes remaining in the frame. And it is going to be, once again, a penalty on Myro. And it's once again a tripping penalty. Avery Hanowski, the guilty party. Hanowski, a name that a lot of hockey fans in the state may know. There was a Ben Hanowski, played for Little Falls before playing collegiately at St. Cloud State, and then had a brief pro career. He's actually back in the city of St. Cloud coaching now. Is there a glove save? I'm assuming no relation, but spelled the same. Also, 2 left-handed shots. Shot taken from the point. That was Baker putting it on target, and Wiggins watches that one cleanly into his glove. So the penalty taken with exactly 4 minutes remaining means that at that point of the contest, the remainder of the second period cut in half between power play time and even strength time. At least that's the game plan. That could be broken up either with an early release with a power play goal, or if any more infractions are taken from here on out. And another shot taken from Ronan Wilson. Wiggins looking like a first baseman down there as he scooped up the two-hopper. They tried to put into the right field corner up the first base line. Fed over to Wilson, and he'll rim that around the boards on the roulette wheel. That'll eventually stop on white 5. That's Stokes who comes up with it. Up the line, and now with it and with some space, Royal, they'll hand off. Checking over his shoulder was Robowiski. Zamont fires and tries to go upstairs short side, did not miss by much. Kept in the zone, Spores cycles it down low, 10 seconds left on the man advantage. Myro trying desperately to get out of the zone and out of the period with a 3-goal lead. This will be played down the length of the ice, and icing will be the call. As I mentioned, over the years, had a number of opportunities to work various Youth Hockey Hub events, particularly the North American Hockey Showcase, a big week-long tournament, usually right around the Independence Day holiday. And again, the product speaks for itself, particularly when you have as even matchups as we've seen throughout the 3 days here in Chaska. 90 seconds left to go in the frame. 5-1. Myro on top. Played up to the blue line, chipped forward, and giving it a second look was Atden Farnsworth. Gasso knocked there by Sullivan. Sullivan in on a 2-on-1. Looks, tries to feed that over, broken up beautifully by Gasso. The only thing that nearly came back to bite the North Shore squad is when you make that pass across, your goaltender's anticipating it going through. Gloved by Smotkin, and everybody for a half second thought he was going to freeze it. We'll play on. But as Gasso broke that up, it nearly left a puck just sitting there with the goaltender sliding all the way over to his right. Fortunately, Gasso was able to make that play. And I should say make it in its entirety, not just breaking up the initial pass, but then making sure a shot didn't follow that up. Nutter ahead for Robowiski, defended well by Myro. They'll get this out to neutral ice. Wise, a one-touch pass. 13 seconds left. Sullivan, clean at the line as Hanowski had to drag that left skate. Then Hanowski, like a bull in a china shop, comes barging in and knocks over his opposition. 3 seconds left, 2-1, and the horn will sound. 3 goals in the second frame, all by Myro. And here in the 2024 SDP Invitational, the 2010 championship game, Myro with a 5-1 lead going into the third. They'll try to hang on for 17 minutes and come away with hardware. We'll take a break in the action, and we will be back with the third and concluding period here in Chaska. Myro 5, North Shore Hockey Development Academy 1. You're watching the SDP Invitational right here on Youth Hockey Hub.
Brewpub Pizza is specifically designed with the hungry in mind. It's big, it's bold, and it's outrageously delicious. Brewpub Lotta Mozza Pizza is made with your favorite premium meats and veggies, topped with over a half pound of real Wisconsin mozzarella cheese. When you're looking for the ultimate pizza adventure, when you crave a really serious pizza that brings the great Brewpub experience, this is the one. Pick it up today at your favorite local grocer. Brewpub Lotta Mozza Pizza, the ingredients for a great time.
I think anytime you're beginning a season or beginning a new sport where maybe you haven't been as well conditioned as later in the season or near the end of the year, that's when you're going to be most prone to overuse types of injuries. That's going to be sprains and strains and tendonitis and stress fractures. And so I think it's most important to kind of slowly ramp up into an activity and build your volume in a stepwise way instead of jumping in all at once.
And welcome back in here in Chaska, Minnesota, period number 3, about set, as we will switch ends once again. So Myro in the white jerseys, blue numerals outlined in red. They will go from right to left, and they enjoy a 5-1 lead. North Shore Hockey Development Academy in the black jerseys, white numerals and gray trim, and right out of the gate tested is the netminder. And I just realized, I think that is Toth once again. No, that is Wiggins. Size-wise, I thought he was a little bit bigger, and I guess that's because he went down right away. As Wiggins now in the contest, and on the other side, Lev Smotkin. We will have a stoppage here, just 34 seconds into the action. We appreciate you tuning in from around the country, around the world here, this Youth Hockey Hub production. My name is Eric Zamora. Greg Tinty, our camera operator, and Lincoln Tinty, our engineer and producer of this morning's matchup. The Myro squad have a interesting situation here. Obviously, you want to go out and score when you can, but they also have to be cognizant of the situation. A 4-goal lead, and they don't want to get into a track meet here. They may want to try to slow things down, maintain offensive possession for sure, and you don't pass up opportunities to try to put the puck in the back of the net, but you don't want to get caught and giving up a couple of goals early. There's a rifle right into the breadbasket of Graham Wiggins, and he will hold on. One of the people that we know is listening back home in New York is Claudia. Had an opportunity to speak with her husband moments ago in the intermission. That's Reese's mom, so we appreciate her and everybody tuning in here to this Youth Hockey Hub production. Played back to Ronan Wilson at the right wing point. He'll knife it around with Stokes. It is slipped past both of them. Griffin Nutter. Nutter gets caught from behind by Wilson. Still able to throw one on target, and Smotkin will hold on for the whistle. Over the years, the Youth Hockey Hub tournaments, bringing in teams from around the country and really around North America. As pre-pandemic, the North American Hockey Showcase was half American teams, half Canadian teams. That percentage has tilted a little bit American side since then, as there's a shot, a rebound sitting there, and it's put home. So don't count out North Shore quite yet. We'll get an official scoring on this one, a mad scramble and a melee, but I believe this is going to be Charlie Spores picking up the tally. And most importantly for North Shore, they get the goal early in the frame, 1:44 in. As they took it behind the net, threw it out front, and then a rebound given up by Smotkin, and it was behind him. That's why it's so important as hockey players to communicate with your teammates when you can. So it is indeed Spores. Farnsworth will pick up the primary assist, Nutter the secondary assist, and North Shore in business. When you take a look at the score sheet, they started out the scoring, and then it was 5 straight by Myro. So most importantly, stop the bleeding, and they did so the end of the second, beginning of the third by not giving up another. And then here they are, starting out less than 2 minutes in, and you figure with a 17-minute period, if you can get one about every 5 minutes, you're back in business, and they are well ahead of that pace. Dancing with it at the line is Baker. He'll play that in deep. Wise. Good decision there by the two teammates to talk it out, and that is floated in as it was deflected by Rocco DeFife. He got a redirection on target, held onto by Wiggins. 14:18 left to go in the frame. Again, a 3-goal deficit is big, but particularly the way hockey seems to be played these days, and you can have a comeback in a hurry. I would not say at this point that you're going to expect to see North Shore changing up too much. Try to stick to the game plan and redirected but off target. I would say if the score remains at 3, then with about 5 minutes to go, you'll see the North Shore squad start to roll the dice and take some chances that they maybe wouldn't earlier in the contest. A 2-on-1 developing. They feed it over. Trying to go through the legs was Carl Stewart. Nutter set him up. Excuse me, I'm looking at the wrong side. That was Johnston on a setup from Matchett. And Matchett with some sauce on that pass. Played to the right point, shot through traffic. However, through that whole way, Wiggins able to see it cleanly. And from that distance, you're going to have a hard time scoring on the goaltender if you don't take their eyes away or redirect it on its way towards the cage. No problem there for Wiggins. He stands tall and holds that one in his catcher for a whistle. Off the target, Supermanian. A check thrown there by Hanowski. Stopping and starting the other way. And we're going to have a penalty here and some pushing after as Ellertson stands up for his teammate. Or check that was Matchett. And they're going to get them both. Zamont with the initial hit. Matchett with the retaliation. And it looks like we're going to stay 5-on-5. And for what it's worth, Zamont got more bang for his buck there. It was a much bigger hit thrown. This is played up to the point, not out. We remain 5-on-5. Offsetting cross-checking penalties. With 13:05 left, it means they need 11:05 and a whistle. Just onside, as having to drag the skate there was Turkowitz. Played up to the point. Here's Sullivan. As if North Shore didn't know to keep an eye on him. He's got 3 and then tries to throw one upstairs on the backhand. It was not quite a lacrosse or a Michigan attempt, but starting to flirt with it. Kept in at the point. Backhanding it out front, and that one actually hit off of a North Shore skate and started to get close to trickling on target. A collision, but will play on. Mentioned that these two teams started the tournament against one another. That one ended up in a 3-3 draw. Saw North Shore take a 2-0 lead through the first 2 periods. A redirection, that one hit off the goal post. And back the other way. Spores tries to go against the grain. It was actually tipped out of midair by the Myro squad. And then good job by nobody touching that when they weren't permitted. They were in the midst of making a change. And NSHDA avoided a too many men on the ice penalty. Looking over his shoulder, Rebel Whiskey, he had a goal in the first matchup between these two teams. The second goal, the only goal of the second period in that draw. Circling the wagon, they throw into the crease. And Sullivan seeing if he couldn't get something to bounce in from there. Nutter started the scoring off in that first meeting, then Rebel Whiskey. And DeFife for Myro. Match it on a power play goal, tied it up at 2. Then a couple of goals within about a minute and a half of each other. Nutter, his second of the game, and DeFife, his second. And we ended up a 3-3 tie in that one. Thrown on target. Subramanian right into the breadbasket of the goaltender. The restart is going to come to the stick side of the netminder. And we have reached 10:54 left to go in the third period. So the offsetting penalties have expired. We had a whistle, and everybody back to their respective corners. Really important for North Shore as they skate today with just 9 skaters, 4 on the bench, and it was 3 there for a moment. Floated on and just off target. Haven't seen it, but Myro, that would be a strategy to employ. If they can take offsetting penalties, it's going to shorten both benches, and they have got far more skaters in this morning's contest. They feed it to the backside, and Johnston got a piece of it, but couldn't redirect it enough. That was a tough redirection, and more often than not, you're going to see that shot end up going off of the side of the cage, as it did here. As I mentioned, just 4 skaters on the bench when they're full strength for North Shore, and there were a couple of big stops there by Wiggins. If North Shore can come up with a decision, remember those saves. Meanwhile, Wise looked like he was going to get hit and ended up going from the hunted to the hunter. "17 Black was in his opponent's sights and then initiated a reverse hit at the last moment. Myro will break out of their own zone, and falling to his knees is Johnson, still able to make the play. They will wave this off as Baker didn't touch it, but according to the officials, they felt he had the opportunity and elected not to. 9 minutes exactly remaining here in period number 3. And we will have a trophy presentation at the conclusion of this 2010 Division Championship game in the SDP Invitational. SDP, the Select Development Program. Played up the line, not out. Second effort, and they get a clearance. Match it. Had his pass broken up. Trying to bob and weave through traffic was Ellertson. It's stolen away. Here's Sullivan. He'll float one over on the backhand to Ellertson. I'm always impressed by players at this age. We're talking 2010, so 13, 14-year-olds. At how they realize the game isn't always going forward. You can sometimes go backwards, as we see here, in order to set yourself up. Possession, so important in the game. Yeah, you're going to have times where you're going to dump and make a change, dump and then forecheck. But the number of times you'll see players take it back into their own zone and just want to hold on to that possession. Shot from the point. Ellertson doesn't get it through, but again, look at the situation. 7:47 left on the clock, and it's a defensive zone restart for North Shore. That's a win for Myro, especially when you factor in, then they make a change, get fresh personnel out there, and things are rolling along for the East Coast squad, again, hailing out of the New York, Connecticut area. This one played down the length of the ice. I know that sometimes that may seem odd. You have teams from 2 states or multiple states, but obviously out east, you're going to see that more often because the states are a little bit more compact. You'll see that. We've seen a number of teams over the years from the Pennsylvania, eastern Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey area. College hockey in particular, I think of in the Midwest, much more spread and spaced out, both by states and by programs. That's why in conferences like Hockey East, they'll a lot of times play two different opponents on a weekend. In the NCHC, in the Big Ten, in the CCHA, it's usually the same opponent Friday and Saturday. Backhand effort. They try to tap it home. It was loose for a moment and unable to find it. Behind him was Stokes. Bringing out the other way is Spores. Spores had the goal in the period that brought the score within 3. He's got the only tally of this frame. Now an on-man rush the other way. In comes Johnson. Johnson waits, feeds it over, and just behind. Great look, but Turkowitz just out of his reach. This will go down the length of the ice and is indeed icing with 6:25 remaining in the frame. Should this score hold up, you've got to imagine that Bauer Sullivan going to be talked about as potentially the championship MVP as well as the tournament MVP. There's a hammered shot whistled. Missed on the short side as the shooter saw it. The far side for us here in the broadcast area. A wait to set the table. Sullivan feeds it up high, now to the right circle. Tough angle shot, and somehow finding the back of the net was Dylan Baker. What a snipe. Seemingly no angle. And I'm going to be honest, when he let that go, I'm thinking, well, he's probably looking for a rebound. Nope. He finds nothing but the top corner, puts that one home, responds to the goal earlier in the frame from North Shore, and Dylan Baker restores the 4-goal lead. We do have a penalty called on Myro, but that is after the fact, so the goal will stand. And we'll get all the confirmation, including the assists on that goal here in just a matter of moments. It looks like in the sin bin for Myro is Rocco DeFife. Baker upstairs where Grandma keeps the cookies, and we'll hold that thought as there's a tough angle shot right into the glove. Jet letting it go, held on to by Wiggins. I've seen this talked about on a few different forums lately, and the debate is goaltenders go down so much earlier these days. You have the VH, the vertical horizontal, or the RVH, the reverse vertical horizontal. Some old school goaltenders and hockey fans say goaltenders. So it's a slashing penalty. So Sullivan picks up his 4th point, and he gets the secondary assist. Carter Ellertson picks up the primary helper. And slashing the call. And I think we're going to have a second penalty. So now it looks like this is going to be evened up, the most recent ones. Jet headed to the box for Myro, Wise for North Hockey. Or excuse me, from Northern Shore. It's a numbers game in my mind, and I know that the traditional thought, you know, you're a hockey fan who grew up watching it in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and you say goaltenders didn't leave their feet nearly as often, nearly as early. Personally, I'm a fan of the thought of, hey, take away the lower area and you just have to tip your cap. If somebody can pick out the top corner, good for them. But you like to think that as the season goes on, you're going to make more stops when that puck is thrown down low. Sometimes it's difficult to try to lift it, especially if you're pressured. And to be honest, you watch some of those highlights from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. There's some great acrobatic saves made, but also you see some goals that you think, that's not scored in the NHL these days, and I think a lot of that has to do with the evolution of the position. I think of two great hockey goaltenders as a example of that. Dominik Hasek, more of a stand-up, and then when he did drop down, was kind of frantic, whereas a Jonathan Quick-style goaltender is much more apt to go down. And there, I think Wiggins played that perfectly. You take up as much real estate, especially down low, as you can, and you tip your cap to Baker. He put it in an opening the size of the puck, and you say if he can do that, he's awarded a goal, but I'm going to try to avoid giving up anything down low. There's a rebound, still loose, and then finally covered up. Stokes jamming at it and coming over to help out his netminder was Jet Zamont. 4:14 left to go in regulation, 19 seconds left on the slashing penalty. Handed out to DeFife. As I mentioned, DeFife had 2 goals against this squad, the first time they saw one another. And needed to get a result, as that ended up being a 3-3 draw. There's a shot down low on Smotkin. DeVife getting the first and third goal for Myro in that game, including what ended up being the game-tying goal. Throwing it out front on the wraparound attempt, and Smotkin able to fight it off. Got some help from his friends as they get a clearance from a tough angle. It was actually broken up before it got to the netminder, then a backhand bid off the glass and out. And it looked like they were off to the races as Turkowitz had a couple of teammates with him, and a potential 3-on-1 broken up before it got there. Nice job there by Johnston. Picked off that pass as if it was intended for him, with North Shore trying to work something out in the zone. They fight for it at the goaltender's right. Goaltender made the initial save. Then right as it looked like he was about to get up, a shot taken, so he had to get the pad right back down. Across the line is Turkowitz. Turkowitz takes a spill, and that was partially because of pressure by Royal. 2:54 left to go. And Myro just trying to ice this one and walk away with the trophy. Again, we'll put a quick bow on my portion of the broadcast. I'll sign off, but we'll keep action here for the trophy presentation. Match it at the dot. It's controlled by NSHDA. Spores gets tangled up as he gains the blue line, and I think he and Supermanian both kind of got into each other, so I think that's one where either both are getting called or neither. Elevated shot up and over the crossbar. Trying to feed that one out was Hanowski on the backhand. Myro keeping the zone. It's Sullivan. Sullivan floats it to the net, and that hit off the skate of Matchett. That screen, trying to make things difficult for the goaltender, also made it difficult for Matchett as his teammate was trying to get him the puck, but he couldn't see it at times. Spores had to deal with Sullivan, who kind of shot himself toward his opposition, but had just touched the puck, so that avoided any interference call. Here's Matchett. Gains the line, drops off. Sullivan snaps a shot, and it misses wide of the target. Baker, I think, was just coming off of onto the ice from the bench, shot out of a cannon, and got there just in time to keep that play onside. 95 seconds left to go in the championship game. Myro, and it's Sullivan, makes a pass back to Baker. Back to Sullivan, and at this point they're playing 4 corners. Farnsworth, the closest man. Now Hanowski stops and start. 2-on-1 if they hurry. Tries to go back door. Intended target there was Ellertson. Broken up before that could get through. Up for Matchett. He'll try to get it back down low for Hanowski. Farnsworth defends him well. Keeps him to the exterior and also kept him on his backhand. Then Sullivan takes a sneaky shot through a sea of bodies. Final minute of play. Played up to the point. Sullivan. A shot into the glove of Wiggins, but that was incredibly sneaky as he faked the shot and then shot. In other words, raised his stick to the rafters, then went back down to make it look like, yeah, I'm passing here. I want you to think I'm shooting, and then snaps a wrist shot just when the goaltender perhaps was going to let up and think, okay, I'm now looking for a pass. However, Wiggins not fooled, but a great look by Sullivan, as if he didn't already have enough accolades in this championship game. 3 goals and an assist. That adds to the tally 7 and 2 for 9 here in 5 contests. The final seconds here, and they'll get it ahead for Jet. Jet with a 2-on-1, feeds it over, and Johnston with a great release, trying to just muscle that through the netminder. Wiggins stands tall. 5 seconds left, brought to the red line, dumped in, and a glove save made by the netminder, and the horn sounds. Myro is victorious by a final of 6-2, and that improves their record, including the round robin and the postseason portion of the tournament, to 3-1-1, as they end up with the victory here. They end up getting goals from Sullivan, 3 of them, as well as Devin Stokes, David Turkowitz, and Dylan Baker. Scoring for Northern Shore, the opening goal scored by Robowiski, and most recently, Charlie Spores. That's going to do it, but again, stay tuned. We'll have the trophy presentation. We'd like to thank you for tuning into this morning's championship game. Again, my name is Eric Zamora. Greg Tinty, our camera operator, and Lincoln Tinty, our engineer and producer. Thank you for tuning in. A final in the 2010 division of the 2024 SDP Invitational, and Myro takes the gold thanks to a 6-2 victory over NSHDA. Thanks for tuning in to this hockey broadcast brought to you by Youth Hockey Hub.
Defenseman from NSHDA, Hudson Hobbs. That's what he gets for leaving. As an alternate, number 2 from NSHDA, Carl Stewart. At forward from Myro Hockey, number 5, Devin Stokes. At forward from NSHDA, number 88, Jeff Zemont. And finally, at forward from Myro Hockey, a hatchet and tournament MVP, Bauer Sullivan.
Pizza is specifically designed with the hungry in mind. It's big, it's bold, and it's outrageously delicious. Brewpub Lotta Matza Pizza is made with your favorite premium meats and veggies, topped with over a half pound of real Wisconsin mozzarella cheese. When you're looking for the ultimate pizza adventure, when you crave a really serious pizza that brings the great Brewpub experience, this is the one. Pick it up today at your favorite local grocer. Brewpub Lotta Matza Pizza, the ingredients for a great time.
Generally speaking, water is a better fluid to use to rehydrate with. A big part of the importance of hydration is hydrating before the race rather than during the race. So, the hydration before a long distance race in particular really starts the day before the race, probably almost 24